Aubade by ladyreadalot. Read by My Lost and Found. Summary. Smiling, Bruce let himself fall asleep again, surrounded by the warmth of his family. They were happy, and so was he. He could let himself rest now. Or Bruce sleeps in for just 5 more minutes. His children collectively decide that it's their goal in life to get him to bunk off of work. This fic is about 1,800 words and 1 chapter. It is rated teen and up audiences, and no archive warnings apply. This is a whispered podfic. It's meant to be relaxing for falling asleep or whatever else you might need. As always, link to the original fic is in the description. And on with the story. Bruce woke, feeling soft and sleepy, which was something of a rarity these days. The sun streamed through the windows, and though he hadn't opened his eyes, he could feel its warmth against his face. His bed was warm and safe, and if he had any meetings, Alfred would come to wake him. None of his open cases were time-sensitive either, so he could afford to sleep for a little while longer. Just a little while. Resolving to get up in a few minutes, he let himself drift back into sleep. He'd almost fallen asleep again when his bed bounced, a body landing on it. A groan died in his throat as his eyes slit open and he was faced with a jittery Tim. He looked exhausted, and Bruce knew he was only awake through sheer willpower and nearly lethal amounts of caffeine. Bruce slid his gaze to the door to see Dick standing there, clearly having thrown Tim onto the bed. Bruce harumphed. He was too tired for this. He reached out, pulling Tim closer. He ignored Tim's startled squeak when he tugged Tim against his chest. Bruce blinked at the icy coldness of Tim's limbs, then promptly began cocooning him in blankets. They also served the purpose of making sure Tim couldn't slip away to do more work. Holding Tim pressed against him, Bruce let himself fall asleep. Tim needed sleep and hugs, and luckily enough, he could provide both. Through his tired haze, he could feel a slender body slotting itself against his back. He only grumbled quietly, even as he lifted the blanket for his daughter to slide under. Cass poked him until he shifted into a better position, her legs pressing against his. He didn't notice falling asleep again, happy, but feeling like he was missing something. He woke up again to a kick in the back, a struggling body being forced between him and Cass. It would have been too much work to turn over, so Bruce just sighed. He leaned back, squishing Damian against Cass, who got the hint. She wrapped Damian up in a hug, casually disarming and handing all his knives to Dick. Damian fussed more, but Cass simply kept holding him until he subsided with a huff. Bruce didn't need to be Batman to feel Damian's reluctant smile against his back. Not even a few moments later, Bruce was awakened by the breath whooshing out of his lungs. He grunted, settling down further into the mattress. Dick's arms wrapped around him, clinging like a four-limbed octopus. Quadopus? Quacktopus. Quack? Duck? Clinging like a duck? Bruce was too tired for this. He let his eyes slip closed. Bruce woke again, feeling the edge of the bed dip. He waited for his kid, whichever one of them it was, to come closer, to join the rest of the family. The bed remained still, so still that Bruce wasn't sure the kid, Stephanie maybe, was even breathing. He sighed, started to get up so he could pull them in. Before he could rise more than a few inches, Dick had already sat up, darting to the edge of the bed to grab. Oh, that explained the hesitancy. Duke. Cass yanked him over to rest on her other side, and Duke tentatively wrapped his arms around her. Cass nestled against him, keeping one arm wound around Damian. Bruce smiled, but he still felt a little empty inside. Most of his family was here, but not all. Not enough. But Bruce knew where thoughts like that led. Dark alleys and gunmen and bloodied pearls rolling into storm drains. And cut himself off. This had to be enough. It had to be. Bruce drifted off again, heart aching. In the area between deep sleep and wakefulness, Bruce heard the shutter of a camera go off. He blearily opened his eyes, shifting his head when Dick's hair got in his eyes. Stephanie stood at the foot of the bed, a maniac grin on her face and Tim's old camera in her hands. Stephanie met his eyes in a silent challenge before getting closer and closer to the still sleeping Dick. Lightning quick, she jumped up, landing on top of Dick. Dick yelped in surprise, eyes flying open. Bruce grunted, the weight limiting his lung capacity. Still, if this is what it took to get Stephanie to sleep, he wasn't going to complain. Dick, growling in mock anger, pushed Stephanie off him and on to Damian, who started growling in real anger. Stephanie's grin grew, and she slid off of Bruce completely to harass Damian instead. Bruce couldn't blame her. Damian was adorable when he was angry. Smiling, Bruce closed his eyes again, sinking into the mattress with a pleased sound. Where the fuck is everyone? I swear to God if I have to. There was a pause. Oh. Bruce knew that voice. Bruce's eyes shot open, locking on the red bat on his son's chest. Jason. I'm just gonna go. You're not gonna fucking drag me into your cuddle pile shit. I doubt you guys will care if I leave, so... No. Bruce blurted loudly. No. He continued quieter. I'd Care, I want you to stay. What? So you can make sure I'm not gonna go off somewhere in the 5 hours I'll be gone? Jason's voice was harsh and derogative, and Bruce winced. I pinky promise I won't kill anyone while you're all wasting your time pretending to be a colony of fucking koalas, he said, mocking. That's not why. I, dead Robin, dare you to stay. Stephanie interrupted. Bruce flinched at the reminder, but Jason didn't seem to be affected. What? No! Jason exclaimed, aghast. That's not how that works, and you know it. Does that mean you're a wimp? Chicken, chicken, bok. Stephanie snarked, flapping her elbows like wings and smacking Bruce in the face. Oh, for fuck's sake. He was interrupted by a rising chant of chicken, chicken from the rest, Dick leading the group and Damian's voice quiet and pointedly monotone. For the love of... Fine, I'll stay. Jason slipped off his gear, discarding the body armor and holsters in a neat pile by the foot of the bed. I'm gonna steal your kneecaps and feed them to Titus, Jason threatened darkly, even as he climbed into the bed. Right, Stephanie said dryly, before changing her tone to something one could almost consider earnest. I mean, of course, I totally believe you, Mr. Very Scary Red Hood. Please don't eat me. Ah! Jason growled, laying as far away from everyone as he could manage, which, given that they were in a California king bed, was pretty far. Just shut up. Bruce smothered his smile in a pillow before turning back to where Dick kept poking him. What was it with his children and poking him? But he knew what Dick wanted. He nudged Dick pointedly, answering Dick's unspoken question. Yes, he was allowed to drag Jason in. Dick pumped his fist, carefully hidden from Jason's view. He slid off of Bruce, landing in between him and Jason. Under the cover of sleep, Dick slowly pulled Jason closer and closer until Dick was pressed against Tim. Then he slipped back on top of Bruce. Cass had lifted her head and was watching the proceedings with keen interest. Dick shifted, tucking himself under Bruce's arm. Thank you, Bruce whispered, throat closing. Dick just smiled at him, squeezing even closer. Robin is what we do, Dick replied, yawning. Then he curled tight into a ball, falling asleep perched on Bruce's midsection. Bruce observed him for a moment longer before shifting his gaze to his second son. Jason's chest rose and fell, and he looked calm in sleep, in a way that he could never be when awake. Before, he couldn't with the restless energy that always pulled at his limbs. Now, it was the anger, the hatred that distorted his face whenever he looked at Bruce. But there was none of that now. Bruce extricated an arm from Dick's clingy accostaments, to reach over Tim and tuck a curl out of Jason's face and behind his ear. The skin he brushed against was soft and warm, and Bruce couldn't hold back his gasp. The last time he'd been this close to Jason without them fighting, well, it wasn't a memory he wanted to think about. He still remembered that dreadful, dreadful cold of Jason's limbs, the weight of his bleeding, broken body cradled in Bruce's arms, the fractured cheekbones and rasping breaths, and lips turning blue, and the way he'd stitched up every one of his wounds and begged Alfred to fix Jason like he'd always done before. Contenting himself with the sight of Jason alive and breathing and well right in front of him, Bruce let himself settle back down into sleep. Jason was a sleep cuddler. Apparently, that hadn't changed, thought Bruce as he woke to an armful of snoring Jason, Tim squished underneath him. Bruce rescued Tim, tilting his head up slightly so it wasn't pressed into the pillow. As soon as Tim's breath slowed to sleepy normality again, Bruce turned his attention back to Jason. Jason's snores weren't loud, just quiet puffs of air was drawn in and out of his chest. They were adorable, so cute. Bruce thought his heart might just burst. Like Jason, Damian snored too, but not often. There was an unspoken rule to never tell him that. After a video surfaced of him snoring, and Damian didn't sleep for days out of fear of being punished. Even now, Damian laid completely still against Bruce's back, his only motion that of his chest rising and falling. Tim, on the other hand, was a mover. There was a good reason why Bruce wrapped him up in layers of blankets. He bounced, he stole the blankets, he wiggled. So, blanket burrito it was. And Cass? She stole the blankets without a shred of mercy. Bruce could cover her in 3 different blankets and tuck a blanket under his body, and thus secure it with his body weight. And he'd still wake up in the morning, bereft of any blanket. But, he thought, turning his head to stare at his sleeping daughter, hair spread across her pillow like a halo. He didn't mind all that much. The door creaked open, and Bruce peeked over the covers. Alfred stood there in the doorway, eyebrow raised. Bruce gave him a sheepish smile, and Alfred just shook his head, lips twitching. Alfred left, pulling the door shut softly behind him. A moment later, he came back, dressed less formally than he had been before. Alfred moved closer before settling down at the edge of the bed. His fingers carded through Jason's hair, Alfred's expression smoothing into peace. Alfred's eyes met his, and he fixed him with an unimpressed look. It was his go to sleep Master Bruce. Look, and it brought back fond memories. Smiling, Bruce let himself fall asleep again, surrounded by the warmth of his family. They were happy, and so was he. He could let himself rest now. And that is all for this sleepy podfic. I hope if you are awake, you have enjoyed this podfic and you are nice and relaxed. And if you are awake and planning on staying awake, I do ask that you go leave a kudos on the original, a comment if you want. Go show the original author some love. But if you are not planning on getting up soon, perhaps go over once you wake again. But I hope you guys have liked this podfic. I thought this story was the perfect little cozy, fluffy piece to do a relaxing, whispered podfic. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and I do really like them. Sometimes I just want to listen to podfic so much that I struggle to tear myself away to fall asleep. So I think it can be helpful to have some soft-spoken, relaxing podfic to help you actually go to sleep and, not be reading fic or listening to podfic at 2 a.m. Me sometimes. But yes, I hope you guys have enjoyed this lovely story. And that is all for this time. I will see you guys next time. Bye!